Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov and his assistant were killed in a bomb explosion outside an apartment building in Moscow earlier today. And he's in charge, as you say, of Russia's radiological, chemical, and biological defense forces. And the killing came a day after Ukraine accused him of ordering the massive use of banned chemical weapons throughout the war in Ukraine. So it does seem to be a case of a rare case of a targeted assassination of a top military official, and taking place as it did in the Russian capital is pretty embarrassing for the Kremlin.
And Kirillov is someone who would have been a prominent figure in the Russian military, someone who would have regularly appeared at briefings as well. I mean, just give us a sense of how important he was in the Russian military.
Yes, his killing is dominating the news, as you would expect, on Russian state television. And he was a prominent figure in Russia because he gave regular briefings at the defense ministry, not only on the state of the battlefield, but he was also involved in various Russian allegations about American laboratories in Ukraine, which were all proven to be unfounded. So he was the face very much of Russia's claims that Ukraine was in some way being used as an American base to threaten Russia's security. So he's a figure that is well known to the Russian public, and he's a figure clearly who is high-ranking in the defense ministry. And the fact that Ukraine was apparently able to kill him with such ease will raise, I think, big questions about security in the Kremlin.
We heard from President-elect Donald Trump yesterday saying Ukraine needs to reach a deal to end the war with Russia. Do you have any sense of what sort of deal Trump thinks that can be reached to end the war?
No, and it was interesting that while he raised the question of whether or not Ukraine could get back all of the territory that Russia has occupied during the invasion, he didn't specify any particular demands of Russia in order to reach a deal. And he left out a key concern for Ukraine, which is security going forward. If and when this war comes to an end, one of Ukraine's key issues is what and how will they prevent Russia coming back in the future and attacking them again? And there has been no indication so far of the thinking of the president-elect about how they might address that issue. In fact, I think the Kremlin will probably be quite heartened by some of the comments that they heard yesterday. President-elect Trump said that he didn't think it was a good idea, for example, that Ukraine should be able to use long-range missiles to attack Russia. And Ukraine's whole argument there is that they're simply defending themselves against Russian attacks, which take place at will and over pretty much every distance in Ukraine. So I think that the Kremlin will be looking to this future as an opportunity for them to assert some of their claims and get a favorable hearing, perhaps in the White House.
Linking this back to this morning's development in Moscow and that bomb attack on the senior Russian general, should we be expecting further incidents like this as we've seen this sort of escalation running up to the start of Donald Trump's term in January?
Well, I think that's the big unanswered question. That there haven't really been many examples of what's known as a decapitation strategy of targeted killings of top military officers, either in Ukraine or in Russia. Russia made an attempt at that early in its invasion and failed, and Ukraine hasn't really developed a campaign to take out top Russian generals. So we have to wait and see whether this was an isolated example because it was linked to someone that they accused of involvement in banned chemical weapons use, or whether this indicates some kind of shift in strategy, as you say, as both sides sort of jostle for position ahead of the opening of possible negotiations when President-elect Trump takes office next month.